Hey everybody, it's Scott Galaxy. I've got a really cool game to show you today. You don't want to miss this. Stick around. What is this? So today's game is, like I said, pretty interesting in that it's part of a library that wasn't released here in North America, and I'm talking about the Sega 32X North American library. There were 36 games released here in the States. I actually have every one of them, and I believe there may have been 40 overall. Don't quote me on that, but a lot of those were, the remainder of which were released in PAL regions. And one of those games is a game that I wish we would have gotten here, but we never did, and it's called Darxide. Now, this isn't the greatest game ever made on the 32X. It's lacking in a lot of things, mainly frame rate, control, but it does show off what the 32X was capable of. And really, that was the downfall. Nobody understood why we wanted to buy the 32X. What was the purpose of buying a 32X if it's just a rehash or more colors of a previous game that we already had in our Sega Genesis library or Sega CD library, whatever the case may be. There just wasn't really a reason to buy it. And this is just one of those games that showed off the hardware. Well, like I said, it's just unfortunate we never got it. But let's take a look at it, and I'll show you exactly what it is that we were missing out on here in the States. Check it out. This is Darxide. So this is Darxide. This game came out in 1995, only in Europe. And before we get into the gameplay, there are some interesting facts about this game. First, there was a launch scheduled for North America, but it fell through for whatever reason. And it was also developed alongside the Sega Neptune, which was the Genesis 32X hybrid system, and that got canceled as well. So as it stands, Darxide has this dubious distinction of being the last game to premiere on the European 32X library, and also never to have been released here at all. Consequently, it's region locked, which means you can't play it here, or at least you can't play the original copy here on the Sega 32X here in the States. So what you see here is an NTSC version I purchased so I can play it. Someone actually did it or unlocked it so that we can play it on the Sega 32X, so thank you for that. And I'll put a link where I bought it in the details below. So if you're looking to buy this, the NTSC version, there'll be a link below. But if you were to buy an original copy of this, complete in box, you're looking to spend anywhere between, I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but you're going to spend anywhere between $2,000 and $8,000. Yes, between $2,000 and $8,000. At least that's what I'm finding on eBay these days. And I imagine it's based on what type of condition it's in. But that's kind of a ridiculous amount. So this NTSC copy that I bought, that you're watching right now, cost me $39.99. So as you can tell, Darxide is a 3D shooter. It's much like the Star Wars or Shadow Squadrons on 32X of the world. And the goal is to eliminate all the asteroids and alien ships within a certain time limit. Now that seems simple enough, but this is pretty difficult. This is a very difficult game, and I'll get to why here in a little bit. But as you can see, it also is one of the few 32X games to make use of the textured polygons and basic lighting. In fact, this entire game is rendered solely by the 32X hardware, unlike almost every other title on the 32X, which share responsibilities with the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive if you live in Europe or abroad. So usually you're going to have games that, like, where the Genesis will handle the backgrounds, and then the 32X will handle the foreground stuff, but this one is using solely the 32X processing power. So back to why this is so difficult. The biggest reason anyway, is the frame rate. As you can see, this game runs pretty slow, and it actually runs at about 10 to 20 frames per second, or even as low as 1 frame per second, as you can see here. And I think it varies between those frame rates due to how much is on screen. So if there's like a close-up shot, it gets really slow because there's just so much information on screen at one time. And so that makes the control somewhat erratic as well. You do get used to it, but that's because you don't really have a choice. I should also note, if you jump straight into this game without reading the manual, do not blink, because you could miss what it is you're supposed to be doing. I remember playing this the first time, and I didn't read the manual, and I didn't know exactly what was happening. I just thought I was supposed to shoot all the ships, and then I would get past the mission of some sort. But every time I got through it, I never died, and I kept failing the mission. I could not understand why. So the reason is you're supposed to destroy all the alien ships and destroy all the asteroids, and you have to do it before you reach a particular destination. So read everything that's on screen. If you blink, it's gonna go by just like that. So make sure you're watching the screen. Now, with all of that being said, I actually like this game. I know it seems odd going through all the negative stuff that I was just giving you there, but I don't know, maybe it's because it's a bit like the forbidden fruit, since we never got it here in the States, so I was just really excited to play it. Or maybe it's because it's the only game that's fully rendered on the 32X. I mean, I was a really big fan of the idea, anyway, of the 32X, but it seemed like nobody really pushed it. And this one does that. Or maybe it's just because the developers took a big chance on this one and push the hardware's limits. I don't know what the reason is, but I do like the game. It's very simple. There's not much to it, but I just like the idea that the system was pushed to its limits. Now, I don't normally recommend for or against buying any game, but while the visuals are stunning for the system, I would not spend thousands of dollars on this. I mean, it is ridiculous to spend up to $8,000. I would play it through an emulator if it's available, or buy a reproduction of it like the one you're watching right now. But to be fair, I wouldn't recommend any game where you have to spend that amount of money. I don't care what game it is, how awesome it is. You should never spend $8,000 on a video game. But if you have that kind of money, hey, why not? So there you have it. That is Darxide. It was a PAL release game. It looks, it had potential, I believe. It had potential. And I still think it's a pretty cool game to have. A game that I actually play a lot of. It gets a little monotonous, as I said, but it's just a really cool game to have because, like I said earlier, it shows off the hardware. And let me know what you guys think. Is this something that you wish that was released here in the States? Are you upset about it? Do you care? I'd love to hear from you. Just put it in the comments below. And before you go, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're the first to know about every video that I make. So that's it for me today. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm Scott Galaxy. We'll see you next time.